Well, I can hear myself. Hopefully, everyone can hear me. I'm just getting onto my feet here with this today. So you're gonna see because you know what, I can do this. Let's do that. So you're just staring at my wonderful face. Let me make sure everything else is copacetic here. Da, 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 Okay, I am. Ooh, where is that at? Da, 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 da. All right. For whatever reason, I'm not showing myself as being live just yet. So give me a second here to figure out what's going on. See if it's just simply a delay or if there is something else deeper going on. Um, no, everything looks connected. The stream is started on the Rumble machine, so that's good, I guess. But I'm not seeing it. I just know that I just know it started because it says it started. And I'm seeing statistics here. No packet loss. That's good. It says 2 minutes in. I'm going at 1080p for the first time. Um, we'll see how that works. I may have to drop back down to 720. It sounds like my voice isn't 100%. Hang on one second here. I've got I got this stuff. Let's see if this helps the throat. I was drinking lemon water. That might have affected things here. This is what streaming is, right? Just basically like here's real life, right? I mean, it's not like the highly produced stuff, although it can be somewhat produced. Some are better at producing than others. I'm still new at this, so I'm still figuring out how to open this annoying piece of plastic here. This annoying plastic pouch that's partially open and partially not. There we go. I'm assuming you saw me struggling with this thing. Anyway, there. So, oh, I see why I'm not seeing myself. I would have to click on that. All right, great. Well, I'm not clicking on that, so let's just see what's going on everywhere else. That's from last time. Nope. Kick is still showing me as being offline. Twitch is showing me as being offline. What about okay. Well, at least X is working. That's something. I don't know what's wrong with Twitch or with Kick. I don't know why they're not showing me yet here. So I just refreshed and they're both still showing me as being offline, which is strange. I don't know what's going on with that today. Let's see. Oh, I see. Okay. YouTube and X are fine. Twitch and Kick are noted here as being degraded. So I'm not exactly sure what that means. But let's see. It might be, I don't know, it might be that I'm going to have to draw back down to 720p. Because I decided to try to send this out at 1080. Oh my god, this is so rude speaking with a lozenge in my mouth. I just realized how terrible this sounds. I'm so sorry. Anyway, I may just go ahead and charge forward and not worry too much about, oh, what is going on here? Um, hmm. I'm connected to YouTube. I'm connected to X. Apparently Rumble's working. So, the thing I need to do is to send a message to 2 people saying I'm live. So I just sent my brother and a friend, hey, I'm live right effing now. I sent him a message, which you can't see because I don't have OBS set up that way. OBS has been a pain in the butt. I was trying to do this thing where you set up OBS in order to spit out multiple videos at the same time. So I was trying to do 3. One of this, which is, me in the corner and whatever's here. Oh, I can get that out of the way, and that's what we should be looking at right there. We should be looking at the chud thing, the chud woke values test, which I'm going to get to in a minute. And so one like this, right? I wanted the one video like this, or actually probably more like this one, and then one which would be Safari only. This one looks fine. This one. My point here is where I was at with this. Um, I had attempted on OBS, and OBS is free, so really can't complain about that. Free is the best, right? Of course, but free sometimes also comes with caveats, and so I was trying to get my MacBook Pro to save at the same time 3 separate video files, and I wasn't asking for much. I mean, just 1080p, right? 3 different videos coming in 1080p. One of this handsome mug right here, one of Safari only, and the third one, which is the live stream. This is what I call Grouchian. This is my live stream. Which is where I am when I talk for most of the stream. I'm usually not doing the host type thing. I'm just doing this at the beginning just because. So I somewhat successfully set it up to record the 3, and I say somewhat because I physically got them all like recording at the same time. But it was dropping on the webcam. It was dropping frames like crazy, and it was I was losing resolution badly. It was like I had it set at 720p, and it looked as if it was 240p. And so I go through and I change all of the different settings on OBS, and there's a shit pot of them, and still could not get it to work. And so at long last, I entirely deleted not just the app, but I went into the various folders where there is information about the app saved separately. So I delete the app, I delete 3 different folders, and then I reinstall the app. So by reinstalling the app, I don't have any of the add-ons, any of the plugins. I have no plugins. And doing that fixed the issue with how my face, handsome or not, looks on the screen. But I have not been brave enough yet to try putting in the option here of saving 3 different video files at once. The idea being that I could then, after I'm through streaming, I could punch those into something like DaVinci Resolve, and I could make the vertical shorts. I'll have to look into other ways of doing that. I don't know. I'll when I get to it, I get to it. Meantime, I'm still getting my feet wet, and that's it. I'm getting my feet wet. So let's speaking of getting the feet wet, let's just do this. Because that's what I tag this as. I tag this as on the X machine, I believe. I tag this something to the effect of where I'm going to sit on the chud woke values test. So I'm going to take this. I saw only the first little part of this. I was watching Asmongold. He took this test, so good for him. I could actually, I think I have. Let's see. Yeah, there he is. If you can see, you can see only a corner of him probably on the screen here. Yeah, you can only see you can't really see him. That's too bad. Let's see if I can do something about that. There he is. So I watched that. Not all of it. I watched the first couple of minutes of it. And I purposely only watched the first couple of minutes of this with the idea that I would go ahead and do this myself separately and not be too strongly influenced by his answers. I only heard the first couple of answers he offered, so I'm doing this independently. He's 100% chud. We'll find out how woke I am. So that's what we're doing. How woke is Grouchian? I respect people's neopronouns and xenogenders. No. Next. There are some words or phrases people should be socially punished for using. Let's go with socially punished. Ooh, that's a tough one. That's a tough one because, those words and phrases would include the N word, a handful of C words, a B word, the R word, and a bunch of others. And most of those I'm actually fine with. And when you say people, that means everyone. But the problem is that Samuel L. Jackson gets an N-word pass, a 100% N-word pass. And he also gets an MF word pass. So, yeah, I'm going to have to just strongly disagree. Next. Women only. Well, I'm not a woman. Next. Not a woman, none of these. Next. The death penalty should exist for certain crimes. Hell yes. Murder, especially. First-degree murder, definitely. Definitely first-degree murder. If someone burns down a house with someone in it, someone sets fire to a house, and there's someone inside the house, and I come along and there's an arsonist and he does that, I might not be strong enough to do this by myself, but if I've got a buddy, I'm going to say, hey, let's take care of business, and the two of us are going to throw his ass into the fire. You start a fire, you burn. Does this seem mean and cruel? I don't think it's any more mean and cruel than setting fire to a house with someone in it. Can't speak for you, but that's how I feel about it. And it seems fair and reasonable, doesn't it? If you're going to burn someone else to a crisp, then why shouldn't you be burned to a crisp? I mean, if you're going to take that as a conscious act. If you have that little regard for the lives of others, then maybe we should have equal regard for your life. How many genders are there? Oh my God, that is the easiest question ever. Only two. There is racial inequality in society that disadvantages certain groups, and we should address it. That's a way wide open question, isn't it? Based on where Western society is now on the subject, I have to say that I somewhat disagree. Not completely disagree, and I should explain briefly. College admission exams should be college admission exams. That should be it. Okay, there should not be, well, we're going to take into account race, and we're going to put people, we're going to admit people with lower test scores or lower grades or other qualifications that are not quite as good based on race, based on ethnicity, based on cultural background. No, I don't go with that at all. However, if someone they're 17 years old and somehow they did not end up in the best schools and they need a little extra help in order to get to that level where they can do well enough on the test to compete with the best of the best. Yeah, I'm all for people getting a little extra help in order to meet that standard. That doesn't mean the standard should be lowered. That means that I'm for someone getting a little extra help. And that should be based on need, not based on ethnicity. So, yes, there are racial yes, I think there might be. Well, you know what? I think this was true in the days of segregation. I think this is not terribly true today. So, what should be addressed is based on more on socioeconomic status or the economic status, or just people who need extra help. I mean, it really shouldn't matter what the skin color is of the motivated person who can't quite, hit the mark on the SAT, and they want to take the SAT a second time, and they want to study their asses off, and they need a little help in school for that. Shouldn't matter what the person's ethnicity is. A motivated person is a motivated person. So I guess I'm going to have to move over to, I just convinced myself to strongly disagree. It's good when companies publicly support progressive social policies or causes. Hell no. The presence of another culture is no threat to my own. It depends on the culture, doesn't it? It depends on the culture. I mean, practically every day these days, somewhere in the Western world, there is someone with a knife yelling Allahu Akbar and slicing other people up. And it seems to be happening a lot, like way too much. So it really depends on the culture, doesn't it? The presence of another culture is no threat to my own. On a personal belief level, of course it isn't. On the level of society dealing with other cultures that are violent, that are from a low trust place, that will take advantage of you, yeah, it's an issue. So a presence of another culture is no threat to my own. Strictly speaking, I will somewhat agree. To eat meat is morally wrong. To eat meat is awesome. Now, that being said, I happen to be a member of a religious faith, Baha'i. And the master, the son of the founder of the faith, Abdul Baha. The founder of the faith is named Baha'u'llah. His son's named Abdul Baha, his eldest son. And he is the one who Baha'u'llah told us in his will to turn to after he ascended. And Abdul Baha's pointed out that we will be, all of us, vegetarian someday, that that's the direction humanity is going. Does that mean that eating meat is morally wrong? I don't think so. It just means that we will become vegetarian. And I know that there are other, that you can go much further into this, and I know that there is a variety of opinion amongst Baha'is concerning what we should or should not do today. And some people would rather be vegetarian or vegan now and be at the forefront and set the example. Here's a problem with that. And I mean, if they want to do this, that's great. But there are certain nutrients that are still very difficult to get strictly from plant matter. First off, secondly, we are still in the early stages of hang on, let me make sure that everything's copacetic here. Okay. We are still in the early stages of learning how to go about engineering, biologically engineering plants in order to achieve the desired nutritional outcomes. So there may well come a time in the future, maybe the not so distant future, where things like vitamin B12 are easy to get. Oh, you need some B12? Just grab this little snack right here. Oh, what is it? Well, it's we spliced together some brown rice and some walnuts. That's interesting. Okay, well, great. And that has your B12. Awesome. Great. All right. All well and good. And I could be persuaded on some level to cut back on meat or to become a vegan, depending on circumstances. I'm not 100% like planted as a carnivore forever. However, at this point in time, under our current circumstances, I see no problem with eating meat. By the way, I know what this looks like, but it's lemon water. Identity groups such as race, gender, and disability are more significant divisions than economic class. I'm going to tell you why I strongly disagree with this. Race, gender, and disability are all functions of, well, not gender. Gender, there's just two of them, and that's universal. And anyone tells you there's a third one, they're lying. They're lying, or they're going, oh, this is our culture. We have the whatever the Indians call that so-called third gender. But basically those are just men pretending to be women. I mean, let's boil it down here. And just because there's a certain amount of social respect in Indian society for that, It's really more about culture. I think that the big divisions we have are rooted as much in culture as anything. Culture and religion. So race, I don't think that is a more significant division than economic class. And I don't think that gender is more significant. I don't think disability is more significant. And I also happen to, I also want to note that when we get to the issue of disability, that's a problem we're going to solve in the next few years anyway. And we're going to solve it with the combination of medical breakthroughs and new technologies. And we're already seeing the beginnings of some amazing changes with Neuralink and comparable technologies. So I'm going to have to disagree. It's acceptable to make fun of someone based on their identity. I'm going to 100% agree on this because I love the roasts, and I love the Kevin Hart roast overall. I thought I didn't like how Kevin handled his part of the roast, and he wanted to be more involved. He didn't want to just sit there passively while everyone slammed him. He wanted to be a little more involved, and so they did bits so that he could be more involved during the roasting part. all well and good. But I love the roasts, and I'm totally 100% Team Tony Hinchcliffe, not Team Chelsea Handler on the jokes. When you get to a roast, there is no such thing as too soon, and there's no such thing as an off topic. And so the joke about Kevin Hart and the bonsai tree, that was funny as hell. So yeah, of course it's okay to do that. I mean, geez, comedy should not have boundaries. Many of the colonized benefited from colonialism. Okay, people are going to hate me for this. There are some people who are going to absolutely hate me, but we're going to go with a big agree on that. Um, One of the things, one thing that's very easy to cite is that the American Indians. There is a Mexican. He wrote a column called "Ask a Mexican." It was in the L.A. Weekly a few years ago, and it was he did this kind of in a funny way. He was comedic. Somewhat comedic in his social commentary. And so when he talked about Indians, he would separate them out by Indian dot or Indian feather. And I thought, that's perfect. So the Indian feathers, there were 500,000 of them around the turn of the 20th century. And by the turn of the 21st century, there were 10 million, something like that. So, if the European colonizers were trying to genocide the Indians, they did a terrible job of it, all things considered. Uh, that being said, I mean, we can, hindsight's 2020, and we could always try to apply, 2025 woke standards on the behavior of European colonists back in the 1600s. I don't think that's completely necessarily fair. So I'm going to go with many of the colonized did benefit. Oh, second example, the Indian dot. They benefited mightily from British colonialism. The British gave them their lingua franca. Because, the Bengalis don't want to learn Hindi and the Hindis don't want to learn Bengali, that kind of thing, right? So what do? They speak English to each other. It's one of the official languages in India. And so this is how people from very, very different cultural groups in India within this nation get along, right? China took a different route after 1949, mainland China. The government there after 1949 chose one version of Chinese and just basically said, okay, the whole nation's going to learn this, and we are going to enforce it through the education system. We're going to enforce this through business. We're going to enforce this through government, and while in some parts of China you can still find buildings with buildings that have bilingual signage, and I'm not talking about English. I'm talking about in the southern part of Yunnan province, where the Dai people, it's spelled Thai, and yes, that does mean Thai, and yes, we're talking about people who are ethnically the same as the people in Thailand, where the Dai people live, which is one of China's minorities. The signs on the buildings are in two languages. They're in Mandarin and they're in Dai, Mandarin Chinese, and they're in Dai, the Dai language. So they took a very different approach. They decided to enforce a single language on the whole nation, and whatever. But that's what India has. India has English. So yeah, many of the colonized do benefit from colonialism. I am aspirationally actively religious. We'll leave it at that. I mean, I say prayers every day. Is that actively religious? I hope so. Gender is a social construct. Strongly disagree. Not even a question. Men only. I don't have a man bun, and I don't have shaved sides. Why would I shave my sides? I do not grow hair between, look, I got hair in the armpit, but my side right here, the side of my rib cage, I don't have hair on the side of my rib cage. I mean, I got a few scattered hairs here, like, on the sternum, over the sternum, right? But I do not have hair on the side there. So, not a man, none of these. I have to go with not a man, none of these. I didn't write the test. Next. Online harassment or cancellation is a serious issue. Here's the problem here. People should simply grow a thicker skin about these things. That's the issue. Don't take all of this so dang seriously. That being said, parents should guide their children because children do not have fully developed brains yet, and they might take things more seriously than we as adults, especially like ancient adults, might. So, online harassment is a serious issue. I'm going to go with That's what oh, here we go. That's what I'm going to go with for that. Women only. My hair is, oh, I'm not a man, so let's go. My hair is dyed. No. And the only time I would dye my hair would be if it was required for an acting job. Next. It is a state's right to enforce unity of culture and language. A state's right? I don't even like the way this question is framed. I don't, this is like asking when you stop beating your wife. It is a state's right to enforce unity of culture and language. I don't think the state should enforce unity of culture or language. My personal take on unity and on culture is this, that we should have what Baha'is call unity in diversity. And unity in diversity, in order for that to work, that requires a two-way or a multi-way street amongst the cultures. It requires not simply respect for, but appreciation for the cultures of others. And it has to work all the way around. So I can respect and appreciate the Quran. I could actually believe in the Quran, which I do, as I believe in the Bible, as I believe in the Baha'i writings, as I believe in the creative word, the writings revealed by Baha'u'llah, what was revealed by Baha'u'llah. I can believe these things, but at the same time, that doesn't mean that I have to accept the counterproductive, the negative, the violent aspects of other cultures. So I can tell you with a straight face, because this is what I believe, that the Quran is a book from God. Same as the Bible. That doesn't mean that people who use the Quran as an excuse to run around with a knife and stab strangers is acceptable in any way, shape, or form. So, and it also means that the state, that if you are going to have order, if you're going to maintain order, that the state has the responsibility, and if you're talking about a democratic government, that people have the responsibility through their state to protect the citizenry and maintain order. And this means that if you have a group of people who come from a particular culture or religion, and that group of people show up saying, oh, we think our religion's better than yours, and so we're going to make you become our religion by force, and then and we're okay with using violence to do that. We're okay with using terror to do that. No, go away. You want Sharia law? Go home. There are more than 50 nations with Sharia law. So, it is a state's right to enforce unity of culture and language. To the extent that we are talking about stuff like, hang on, to the extent that we are talking about stuff like these what Godsod calls the noble people. Love that. To the extent that we're talking about that and pushing back against that and setting standards and maintaining them, yeah, if that's what we're talking about, sure. Can a state set an official language? Yes. Can a state set more than one official language? Of course. And India did that. India has more than one official language. There are a number of nations that have more than one official language. The United States does not have a legal official language. We have a suggested official language via executive order. So, it's a good idea to learn English if you're going to be functioning in the United States. I like offending people intentionally and intentionally say provocative things. Only on occasion. I'm going to be neutral on that one. Transgender people are the gender they say they are. Fuck no. They're not. They are not. John Walker Flint likes to call himself Brianna Wu. He is still 100% a man. Deal. He has me blocked on X, by the way, so he's probably not going to ever hear this. Whatever else you think of him, Donald Trump should be recognized as a very funny man. Oh, it's taken me a while to come around on Trump, but yeah, he's, it took a while for that to click with me, but yeah, he's very funny. And second term, I tell you, he's a little more relaxed than he was first term. He's part of that is that he learned from his first term, and he had 4 years to stew and think and plan between presidencies, 45 and 47. And he's put together a far stronger team second term. And I think first term he pushed some things pretty well. There's some things that he did that I thought were pretty good, like the Abraham Accords. The issue was that I don't think he was fully cognizant of just how awful the bureaucracy is in Washington, D.C., and how badly it needed to be addressed. And I think it took him a while to get to the point where it's like, oh my God. And so second term, he installed a team to deal with that. And, he hasn't gone quite as far with some things as I would like, but it's pretty clear that he is getting more of his agenda done second term than he did first term. I mean, I don't really think there's much of a question about that. But yeah, whatever else you think of him, he's funny. Yes, he's got an amazing sense of humor. Transgender people are gender they say they are. I thought back. I'm sorry, next. Yeah, strongly agree. Next. I celebrate or strongly support Pride Month. Next. I follow the health advice and masking recognition. I had a bit of a learning process during the scamdemic. And I was a bit of a dummy at first. I was a bit of a dummy. It took me a minute to come around, but it's one of the things that that has been a bit of a growth experience for me in terms of just actually, it's been generally even. I think you can keep growing even when you're my age. I think that old dogs can learn new tricks on occasion, at least. So, I did at first, and then I woke up. And I think there were some pretty obvious things that kicked me into waking up. When Joe Rogan through the entire kitchen sink at his COVID, and he went from being sick as a dog to being much better within 2 days, and it looked like he had a pretty serious case. And CNN did that to him, and he took the ivermectin, and he took the Z-Pack, and so on. Um, that was a big wake-up experience for me, and it was my process towards getting to be where I am now was gradual. I understand more about masks now than I did then. I understand more about the importance of vitamin D now than I did then. I'll just have to admit to being a bit ignorant, and that's okay. I mean, life is about learning stuff, and so I learned a few things. So, did I follow the advice in masking during COVID? For at least part of COVID, I did. By the end of COVID, I only followed what I was required to follow by the government under which I was existing. So I'm going to be neutral on that one. I am waiting till marriage for sex. Well, I'm married, so I'm just going to leave that. It is immoral for a country to invade or claim another land for resources. I'm going to disagree strongly, and I'm disagreeing strongly for historical reasons. Because this is a rather new moral construct. I'm not 100% might makes right. But it is immoral for a country to invade and or claim another land for resources. Okay, I'm going to go from disagree to neutral on this one. I'm going to go neutral because historically there was never a moral problem with this. And today the moral problem is a bit questionable. Because we are at a point where we have this idea of moral standards as propagated through international organizations like the UN, and that those things are being applied, shall we say, selectively. I think selectively is a good word for that. But if you look at, and I'll just go with my home nation, the United States, I'm an American. If you look at how we have handled the current conflicts, which do happen to revolve around resources, when you look at how the current administration has handled this, Venezuela, there was one guy who was trafficking drugs. He got arrested, and there was a grand jury issued to the indictment. The American forces, a combination of the United States military and police forces, arrested the leader of the nation, Maduro, and spirited him. Spirited is an interesting word. Transported him to the United States, and Venezuela was then in a position to with some help from the United States, because the United States did demand some resources from them, but this actually was at least partially based on recompense for the confiscation of resources from corporations decades ago. So there were some old economic scores to settle, so to speak. But I would note here that the United States did not invade militarily in Venezuela in such a way that it could be occupied and the United States manage it. What the United States is doing is letting Venezuela manage itself from a distance within some specific parameters for specific things that the Americans are setting. And that's very, very different than marching into a country and stripping of it its resources and then marching out. So that's very different than what the Belgians did in the Congo, for example, in the 1800s. So I'm going to be neutral on this one because I think it's a bit more complicated than that. Too many other variables need to be brought into that conversation. It is acceptable to make some fun of someone based on their appearance or based on their height. Again, I would refer to the Kevin Hart roast where the jokes went to his height, and the jokes went to how dark his skin is. We shouldn't expose children to gay or transgender people until they're older. Actually, I'm going to go with strongly agree, but why do we need to expose them to them at all? Look, when you talk about quote unquote transgender people, what you are talking about is people who believe in this quasi-religious thing. You know, it's an ideology, and it's a false ideology, and it has many of the markings of a religion, including catechisms and beliefs that have no basis whatsoever in medicine or reality. So, yeah, I'm going to say at the very least we shouldn't be exposing children to Sodom and Gomorrah stuff until they're older. Sure. We should keep all sovereignty at the national level rather than granting power to organizations like the EU or the UN. At the moment, yes. In the long term, I firmly believe that the nations of the world will voluntarily come together and come to an agreement for a world government. And I know that there are people who are going to be triggered about that based on what we've seen of internationalism, globalism over the last few years. There's been some good things about the nature of the world getting smaller and the nature of the alliances and world trade and so on and so forth. There have been some clear positives to this. There have been some clear positives to being able to fly halfway around the planet in 12 or 14 hours. And within the next 10 years, we're going to be able to go halfway around the planet in an hour. So, I mean, there are clear positives to that. The world has shrunk, and it's okay. And the exposure of cultures to other cultures, to the best other cultures have to offer, has been beneficial all the way around, overall. But when the nations get together and do this, it's got to be voluntary on the part of the various nations. And it's got to be mutually beneficial. And not mutually beneficial in a way that you've got elites in New York City at the UN building, or elites in, I think it's Brussels, right? As the EU as an example, dictating to the various countries a set of standards. There has to be buy-in. It has to be voluntary. There has to be buy-in. And I think that the idea of a world government is, the reality of this is that a world government is a world government like, I don't want to say a UN with teeth because I don't think it's going to be like the UN, but an international government with teeth, with the military, with the power to tax, with redress of grievances, with all the things that we associate with a free nation. I think this is inevitable. And I think it's inevitable for the same reason that the 13 colonies became the United States. It just makes sense. But it's got to be voluntary. It can't be what we've been doing so far. I have compared real-life political events to mainstream entertainment. Of course I have. Homosexuality is against my values. Correct? Parents should absolutely hold power over their children as they are older and more experienced. Hold absolute power. What age is the child? In this question, what age is the child? Parenthood, one great description I've heard of parenthood is it's an 18-year process of letting go. Because a newborn baby needs you. They rely on you for everything. Without question, they rely on you for everything. They get to be 12, 14. They don't need you the same way. They still need you. They need you financially. They need you for emotional support. They need you as an example. They need you as a spiritual example. And their brains are still developing. They also need you to provide boundaries, to say thus far and no farther. They need you to emphasize the importance of impulse control. A 12-year-old, a 14-year-old, a 16-year-old, there are still things parents need to teach them, but the approach has to be different. And at 16, you don't hold absolute power over your child in the same way that you do when the child is 3 months old. This is obvious. So this is kind of a loaded question, and so I'm gonna split the middle here. Within my political movement, company, or social group, we should elevate voices from minority identity groups. I mentioned I'm a Baha'i, right? So, the minority identity group, let's say we're talking about a nation in Africa, let's say Angola. Okay, just a wild out there example. And I mention Angola because there is one of the continental Baha'i temple for the continent of Africa is in Angola. It's in or just outside of Kampala, and so Angola has a Baha'i governing group. Okay, the National Spiritual Assembly there. And because Angola is largely sub-Saharan African, of course, most of the Baha'is governing there also happen to be largely sub-Saharan African, for what that's worth. Their job there, if I give you a strong yes, their job would be to elevate the voices of the white people who are there. Right? Because the white people in that place are the minority identity group. Or, another way of looking at this, since we're talking about a group that's all Baha'is, they're all members of the same religious faith, there is no minority identity group. They're all Baha'is. Some happen to be black, a couple of them happen to be white. Should voices be elevated based on ethnicity only, apart from any other considerations? I might say no. So this is really tough. Within my political movement, company, or social group, we should elevate voices from minority identity groups. I'm going to go neutral on this one. It is acceptable to make fun of generalized groups. Again, this would be the roast rule. Women only. Oh, I'm not a woman. But how much of the domestic labor, childcare, cooking, and cleaning do you or would you do in a relationship? Yeah, I'm here streaming for however many people are watching. Oh wow, my voice just went again. Sorry, I got to do another of these. I don't know. My voice is having a day. Let's see if I can get this one open more quickly. Ha ha ha! I don't like the way these are wrapped. This is terrible. But anyway, I got it out. All right. When people ask, I tell them I'm half retired, and since I'm half retired, that means that my wife still works. Although she doesn't put in a full 40-hour week, but she works. I'd say I'm doing roughly half of the domestic labor in the house. We have one child, and she was off for a school trip for a week and a half. Just got back, and during the period of the school trip, I'm the one who took some of the chores that she normally does, like taking care of her cat. So I kept the cat fed, cleaned the cat box, and at least on occasion gave the cat attention. It's a male, neutered, and it's orange. And if you know anything about cats, you know what that means. Most of these cats within this category, you narrow down these particular things, they're attention hogs. So this one requires, and I realize there are some cats that are very, very sensitive. You pet them for like 2 minutes and they're overstimulated and they bite you and run off. This cat, you can scratch both sides of his head for a solid hour and then stop, and he's going to look at you and go, "What the fuck, man? I want more." So I did give the cat a little bit of attention. And I would put myself at half, but I'm not a woman, so next. Men only. I have no women friends, but only online, one woman friend in real life, multiple women friends in real life. I'm going to say multiple women friends in real life, but, the scamdemic claimed a close woman friend of mine a couple of years ago, and very sad situation. She is woke, and she 100% bought into the message, and so so she got jabbed, and as a result of the jab, she got the turbo cancer. This is my opinion, okay? This is just an opinion. And it tore through her head, literally. I mean, it tore through her head. Slow motion compared to, say, a sword, but very fast compared to normal cancers. It tore through her head. And she did all the stuff you could do to fight this thing. Chemo, surgeries, the whole lot, and all very unfortunate, but it eventually took her, and so because of her and because of my wife and because of others, I know I'm gonna go with multiple women friends. I am fine with police and government forces using violence against unarmed civilians. Define unarmed, okay? If I've been watching videos of some of these ICE protests, right? Some of the protests against ICE. I like the idea of ICE becoming nice. I think that's chef's kiss. It really should happen. These Antifa types are well trained in skirting right at the edge of the law, and then going past it in places where the law enforcement agencies allow them to go past it. So, just as one obvious example, if you take an ordinary whistle, like a referee's whistle, and you blow it 3 inches from someone's ear, you can damage their hearing. That's physical assault as far as I'm concerned. That's felony assault as far as I'm concerned. And it has become a relatively common tactic for these protesters to use such devices. As an example. Another example, a water bottle with a sprayer. Okay? It is just as easy to put acid in a water bottle as it is to put water. Or to put other substances in there. Or to put viruses in there. You put a virus in a water bottle that is, and the virus happens to be contagious and it carries via mist, via water. Spray that in someone's eyes, they can catch that virus. That should be felony assault. Just spraying, even if it's just water, and oh no, I only did water, blah blah blah. No, you sprayed something at someone with the intention of terrorizing them, with the intention of causing fear that, oh my God, I have no idea what's in this bottle and I might die. As far as I'm concerned, spraying someone with water in 2026, with what we know about diseases and what we know about acids and the history of acid attacks in places like the UK, felony, period. Spray someone in the face with a water bottle on purpose with the intention to intimidate, and that's easy to figure out. You should be in the slammer for at least a year. And if you're a man, you should be meeting up with Bubba. So I have zero sympathy for those people. They should be arrested, prosecuted to the full extent of the law, and they should be seeing a judge like me. Animals deserve certain universal rights. They have the right to be tasty. Non-binary only. Oh, you know what? No such thing as non-binary. So I have to say not non-binary or none of these because there is no such thing as non-binary. There is a spectrum of being a man. There is a spectrum of being a woman. There is no spectrum where a man can become a woman. There is a spectrum of masculinity. There is a spectrum of femininity. A woman may feel like culturally some of the things they like to do come off as a little bit more masculine. Tomboys are the classic example. There are men that may culturally come off as being a bit more feminine in some of their preferences or some of their likes or some of their behaviors. That doesn't make them any less of a man. No such thing as non-binary. So this question is bullshit. Races are a scientific reality. I'm going to do this for personal reasons. Here's the thing. When you look at DNA and race, there is no question in my mind that humans are all of, I just want to make sure the camera is still following my head. The humans are all of a single race, the human race. Now, within that race, one race, we do have some diversity. We see this diversity within the human race manifested in skin color, that's an obvious one, average height or weight, some physiological capabilities. There are groups of humans who are from place X or place Y who are just unusually good at running long distances, or unusually good at sprinting, or unusually good at lifting massive amounts of weight. There are some groups of humans who've been in like one place for a while and have largely procreated within that particular group, who have developed particular characteristics. On average, like Samoans. Samoans are big. I mean, everyone knows Samoans are big, right? Koreans historically, small. This is not a superiority-inferiority thing. This is like flowers. I'm sorry, I I really need this in order to have a voice. This is like flowers in a garden. Now, granted, a garden with red roses, nothing but red roses can be nice. It can smell great. But typically, we think of a garden as being more beautiful when there's a variety of flowers. And most gardeners choose to grow a variety of flowers. That's on average. So, but none of that stuff, like the groups that can run faster, the groups that are on average larger, like Samoans, none of that is race. It is ethnic. It is regional. It is population groups. And that's different than race. So, when you say race is plural or a scientific reality, I strongly disagree. We should end programs that support diversity, equity, and inclusion in business and government. I couldn't agree more. Next. Borders and nation states should be abolished. No. I'm going to strongly disagree, and even though I firmly believe that we will have a day when we have a single world government on this planet, and and having that world government will be of immense benefit to all of the people of the world, to peoples around the world. It will be an incalculable benefit compared to where we're at now. I firmly believe this. At the same time, if we look at the United States as an example, the United States is a single, relatively cohesive nation. But within that nation, you do have a certain amount of, well, actually, in the United States, you have like more diversity than you see in most nations. And some of that diversity is regional. Some of it is different cultural groups who live in the same city or who are neighbors. But borders are an effective means of regional management. And so you have the borders for the nation, and the nation has a set of laws that work for the governing of that nation. And then you have, within that nation, you have states, and those individual states, or in some places they use the word province. You have smaller political lines drawn for the purpose of management. And one of the things that I think is a pretty good idea overall is to devolve as much management, as much of the governance as reasonably possible to local units. So going down not just to cities, but like when you have a large city, but to regions within a city, neighborhoods within a city, that as much as possible, reasonably possible, local decisions should be made locally. And you need borders in order to do that. Nation states, in the sense that we have states and then we have a nation, we could have nations and we could have a world government, and each of those nations would be a state. So I don't think those should be abolished. Next. Neopronouns and xenogenders aren't legitimate. Correct, because all of that has to do with gender ideology, and it's an ideology I don't subscribe to. Next. If entertainment media or commercials have a certain identity makeup, whether that be a lack of diversity or forced diversity, that upsets me. That's an interesting question. Let me take a second and do something else here real quick. I'm going to come back to 44. Let's see. Bop, 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 bop. Yeah, that was that's him. Okay. Bop, 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 bop. I'm just looking at my notifications right now. That was a day ago, so never mind. All right, whatever. Let's see. Let's move this back over. I just had to do that just for the sake of. Does that upset me? It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. I'm going to go with somewhat disagree. I notice it, but I notice it because I've been entertainment industry adjacent off and on for quite a while, so I do notice it. And it's different in different nations, and you may have seen the commercial that came out of China, where there's this pretty Chinese girl, and there's a guy there, and the guy happens to be black, and he's painting the house or whatever it is, and she's like all cute and all that, and he does this work, and he comes out after doing this work, and he's like dirty all over. He's got paint on his clothes and so on, not on his face but on his clothes. So in this commercial, she basically grabs him, stuffs him into the washing machine, pours in the brand of soap that they're advertising, washes him, and a minute later, or a second later, he pops out of the washing machine as a Chinese guy. Not racist at all, is it? That's no prejudice there. Yeah, that's perfectly acceptable. The irony in the casting, the black guy was actually more handsome. At any rate, I don't know about being upset, but I know people do get upset about it. Non-binary only. I'm not non-binary. We covered this. My romantic partner is I am forced to go with a different race. But as I said, I don't believe in different races. I think we're all humans. We're all the human race. That being said, she has, she's East Asian, so there you go. I put pronouns in my bio. Fuck no. Telling somebody to kill themselves crosses a line. Yeah, my personal line, sure. For me, I'm not going to say that. For the same reason that I'm not going to advocate for anyone to be unalived or to be forced to assume room temperature or to be deleted, and I'm not going to advocate that anyone self-delete. I just that's my personal line. I don't know if it is a line, as in a line for a society, but that's my personal line. And when I read someone else, saying, "Oh, you should just go kill yourself," or someone should just go kill themselves, I think that, yeah, okay, so I'm going to agree but not strongly agree because of the free speech aspects of this. Gender should be abolished. No, gender shouldn't be abolished. Gender should be celebrated. Men should be celebrated. Women should be celebrated. Vive les différences. But if I strongly disagree, I know what this test is going to do with it. It's going to be like, why is he saying gender should be abolished and he thinks there's only two genders, right? Or only two sexes. But I'm going to do this anyway, and they're just going to have to figure it out. I support reparations. I'm still waiting on my reparations. The Arabs, the Arabs in Tripoli and in who were in Tripoli, who had swept in from the Middle East, they have taken millions of white people slaves. They swept into Spain And I have family from Spain, and so I'm sure I have ancestors who were oppressed by those Muslims, and I'm waiting for my check. Where is my money? Where is my money? Seriously, no, it's bullshit. I support reparations? Absolutely not. Bye. Question number 51. Countries such as the United States and Australia should give a portion of land, particularly important sites and lands, back to indigenous people. I have a rather controversial opinion about this as far as the United States and Indian feather. I think that overall, the European settlers handled the locals better than many other colonizing groups have historically. Certainly, like I mean, you read the Bible, and there were groups where there were warring groups where one side just slaughtered everyone else, men, women, and children, just erased the existence of that other group. Period. And the fact that we worked with Indians off and on, the fact that we set aside reservations and gave them places to be, even if it wasn't the best land, all of this was a distinct improvement over how most greater powers handled lesser powers historically. And this is true all the way back to how to what we know about how Homo sapiens, how Homo sapiens sapiens, the Cro-Magnon, the modern humans basically, handled relations with Neanderthals and Denisovans and others. It goes back that far. The more powerful group messes, the more powerful groups takes care of business with the less powerful group. I think we've done a lot better. So, no. I think that the Americans have already given land back to, have already set aside land for the First Peoples. So there. Fundamentally, our society is sexist and patriarchal, and this is a bad thing. I wonder if we're sexist enough. Let me explain. Men and women are spiritually equal. This, I believe, is a matter of faith. Men have souls, women have souls. We are all responsible to our Creator. Notice I said spiritually equal, because it's blatantly obvious that men and women are identical. Women can do things men can't. God bless. Men are stronger, and men can do things that women can't. God bless. Male physiology is organized around the ability to produce and distribute small gametes, sperm. Female physiology is organized in such a way as to support the production of large gametes, eggs, ova. Men don't carry babies, and it is a sign, in my opinion, of emotional, not just emotional immaturity, but mental illness to want to carry a baby if you're a man. If you're a man, God gave you a penis. This should be accepted with radiant acquiescence. If you are a woman, God gave you girl plumbing and softer features and better smell. Women just smell better. This is, obvious things are obvious. And women should accept these womanly gifts from God with radiant acquiescence. Embrace being a man if you're a man. Embrace being a woman if you're a woman. This is how I feel. As for sexism and patriarchy, there are also, broadly speaking, some differences in how men, based on the caveman physiology and psychology and such, how we approach particular issues. And we hopefully are coming to a point sometime in the not too distant future where we'll be able to address these things a little differently. But we're not quite there yet. Not when we have wild, crazed cultists running around with knives, yelling Allahu Akbar and stabbing people randomly. Men historically have been protectors, and we are, on the whole, less valuable to the tribe. Women are the nurturers, and they're more important. I say this as a man. Women are more important. They're the first educators of the children. They're the ones who see the next generation come up first. That doesn't alleviate men from being fathers and from being there for women and being supportive. It does mean that that women have a unique role that men don't have. I watched this with my wife and our daughter. I watched this process. You know, the from the birth to the breastfeeding and that relationship. She has a relationship. My wife has a relationship with my daughter that I'll never have, and that's fine. That's perfectly fine. I shouldn't have that relationship. I have my relationship with my wife and my relationship with my daughter, and that's what it is. And what my role is not identical to what my wife's role is. Now, in society, the roles of men and women have been subverted by modern civilization. And I think that that's not necessarily a completely good thing. That is not to say that we won't grow in some interesting ways and come to new understandings. What it is to say is that we are still at a point where, because there are men who are crazed, animals with knives, actually lower than animals. Animals, at least, most animals will kill primarily to defend themselves or to kill to eat. Okay, they don't kill for ideology. Animals don't kill for ideology. Humans do. And as long as there are some humans who kill for ideology, then there are other humans who are going to have to be protectors. And we have to just recognize that that's the reality of where we are at this moment. So, is our society sexist and patriarchal, and is this a bad thing? That's why I said maybe we need to be more sexist and patriarchal, because when I think about patriarchy, I think in terms not of subjugating women, I think in terms of protecting culture, protecting groups, protecting people who need to be protected. So, I was going to go with strongly disagree, and because it says, and this is a bad thing, and so I'd have to disagree with the bad thing part. Yeah, I'm going to leave it there. People should be treated equally regardless of race, gender, or creed. Not equally. Not equally. You've got to judge things. You have to employ your judgment. And in employing your judgment, you don't treat everyone exactly the same. I do not treat my daughter the same way I treat my wife. That would be silly. I do not treat my coworkers the same way I treat my boss. That would be silly. I do not treat my friends the same way I treat my wife. That would be silly. I get the idea of equality, but because we have to judge, because we have to make choices in our relationships in order to meet the needs of the other person and our own needs, This comes closer to this is another big bugaboo word, equity. This comes closer to equity than it does to equality. And so if we're going to be fair to other people on a personal level, then of course we're not going to treat everyone exactly the same. So I'm going to have to disagree. The family is the most important unit in society. Next, yes, of course. No one is illegal on stolen. Oh, strongly disagree. That statement is like a bundle of one, two, three, four, five, six. That's 7 words with at least 2 major fallacies. Next, no one is illegal on stolen land. No, no one is illegal on stolen land. I completely disagree with that. I think it's particularly offensive for people to say slurs. Fuck no. I mean, look, I think there are individuals who have their personal bugaboos. There are words they don't want to use, right? And that is largely cultural, even within the same language. The British, two mates, 2 close mates. One mate is they're going to be having a conversation. The other one's going to go, yeah, you daft cunt. And that word carries a very different weight. It's just different. It just hits American ears differently than it hits British ears. And so, right? Slurs are contextual is what I'm saying. They're contextual on culture. They're contextual on the relationships between the persons who say the slurs. I just watched the roast of Kevin Hart on the Idiot box, on the Idiot screen, and loved it. And there were all kinds of slurs being used on that one. So I don't think it's particularly offensive. I just think that there are slurs that I have a problem with. Like, I won't use the GD word. I'm not calling on God to do that to other people. I might. I like the Southernism version of that. And one of my grandmothers liked to do this. Bless his heart. I like that better. I like anime. I like One Piece. So I'm going to be neutral on that. I'm attending or have attended, let's see. I did attend a regular university. I attended more than one. I read contemporary philosophers. Occasionally, pretty much no. Most contemporary philosophers I don't have much use for. My country, or people, should apologize for crimes and wrongdoing our ancestors have committed. I'm pretty sure by now you know I would strongly disagree with that. Abortion should be legal in all circumstances. By the tenets of my faith, life begins at conception. Spiritual life begins at conception. That being said, our supreme governing body, this is for the Baha'i faith, the Universal House of Justice, allows abortion for Baha'is. And what the House of Justice says is that this should be prayerfully. It should be the decision should be made in consideration of the sacred text and in consultation with sound medical doctors. You should get sound medical advice. So I understand that by the rules of my faith as currently enunciated by the House of Justice, this is not in the sacred text, so the House of Justice can change their mind at any time about this. But this is what, but we believe that the House of Justice is inspired by God, so we believe this is what God is allowing at this time. It's a sticky wicket abortion, and so I would have to say, no, abortion should not be legal in all circumstances. It should be legal in the narrowest of circumstances. I don't know who wrote the line for Hillary Clinton, but I actually liked it. She once said, and I don't know if she was the first one to say it, but I remember her saying this. She said abortion should be safe, legal, and rare. I would put one other cap on. I would put a couple of other caps on that. One being that abortion past a certain number of weeks should be criminal, with the exception of life of the mother, and that before that, abortion should be limited to circumstances of rape, incest, or the life of the mother is in danger. And I realize anyone can just say, well, I was raped, okay? Now give me my abortion. Oh, you were raped 7 times in the last 4 years. That's how often you've been here to be scraped. Well, still, I want my abortion. I realize, because only women get abortions, but I realize women could be untruthful about this. But still, the fact that we have abortions, that to me also is an indication that as a people, the human race, that we just aren't really that mature yet. That we are growing up, but that we aren't that mature. And when we as a race, humans, when we are a bit more mature, the issue of abortion will be obviated. It will be like, no, of course you're not getting an abortion unless your life's in danger. Oh, Men should hold a position of power over women in society. Ooh. I know there is the position within Christianity about how the man's in charge in the family, and I know that men carry a higher position than women within Islam, and I explained that in the Baha'i faith, women and men are spiritually equal. It is also true that Abdul-Baha said that wives should obey their husbands. And he said should. He didn't say required to. He said should. And he coupled that with a range of responsibilities for men involving presence of mind and maturity and taking into account everyone's best interests. So he said women should, wives should obey husbands, but men are not at all, husbands are not at all absolved of a range of responsibilities. It wasn't like, well, the wife should obey the husband and the husband can do whatever the heck he wants. There are some deep, important responsibilities that both sides in the marriage have. And when we're talking about society in a sense, if you look at society as the family amplified, then it's an interesting question. Men should hold a position of power over women in society. I'm not sure I like the framing of that. I think we have a current problem, and again, this goes to the maturity of humanity, that we have misplaced empathy coming from some quarters, especially from, sorry to say, women, particular groups of women. And that has led to some bad societal outcomes, certainly in the West. So I'm going to go neutral on this because I could make really great arguments both ways. A strong hierarchy is desirable in society. I don't know what they mean by strong hierarchy. I really don't even want to get into this one. I realize we only have a few questions left, and I've been at this for a couple hours, and hopefully people aren't too bored yet, but I don't want to get into this one. Okay, fine. The hierarchy should be that we follow the law of God And I know that's going to be a big bugaboo for some people, but too bad. We should follow the law of God. And we will get to the point where we are mature enough to recognize that we should do that. So I'm going to go with agree and not strongly agree. People describe me as there really should be a fourth option for both. Why isn't both there? Why can't I be both judgmental and abrasive? Huh? Am I more so now? If I have to choose one of these, am I more judgmental or am I more abrasive? Online or in real life? Because in real life, I try not to be too abrasive, but I mean, just offering my opinions, it ends up coming off as abrasive. Judgmental? Oh, it's the judgmental opinions that make me abrasive. Am I abrasive or judgmental? More abrasive or more judgmental? Hopefully, hopefully someone who knows me, I should ask my friends. I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna go with abrasive, but it's really a coin toss. I prefer the city, the suburbs, or the countryside. Depends on my mood. You belong in the city, concrete under your feet. This is so. This one. I'm sure a lot of people will just go immediately. They have it like that, right? Me, it depends on where the countryside is. There are places where I love the countryside, and there are places where it's like, ugh. So I'm going to split the difference. The family. I disagree. The family is a fundamental unit of society, and we love family. Family is awesome. Family is great. Family is the best. So I strongly disagree with that. I support doing land acknowledgments. Land acknowledgments are bullshit. Deportation is legitimate even if no crime other than overstaying a visa has been committed? Yes, absolutely. I have no sympathy for people who overstay a visa. Mea culpa. I overstayed a visa completely accidentally for like 1 day, and I went in to have the visa renewed, and I apologized profusely and paid the fine. All right, so as a long-term expat, I get that. Yeah, but I've got a long-term visa now, so I'm good for a couple of years. So yeah, definitely, yeah. Bye bye. I publicly out as LGBT. No. I am publicly out as a raging heterosexual. Men only. Ooh, well, last time I checked, I'm a man. So okay, let's get to this one. Move that one over just a little bit. How much of the domestic labor? Oh, here we go. Here's the answer. Okay. It says half or more, but men overestimate how much they do, right? As men, we overestimate how much of the domestic labor we do. There's no doubt about this. I will not even take any disagreement on this. Oh, now we're going to find out how chud I am. Let's see. Oh, I got to move this over a bit. Let me move this back over here. Yeah, okay. Okay, my results. Oh, wow. Acts chud and is chud. Acts woke and is woke. Oh, I can take the test again. That's good. Okay. So I have to save this. So I'll just put that on the desktop. Why not? I'm going to share this on X. I don't know if you can see that or not. Let's see. All right. Do I have to move that out of the way or something? I don't know. Ah, sorry. There we go. Let's see. It's not working. The share on X part isn't working. So, phooey. Anyway, so since it's not working, I'm just going to close that window. I don't know why it's not working, but it's not working, so screw it. Maybe I could try it this way. Open the link in a new tab and see what happens. Da, 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 da. Aha, there it is. My chud woke test results. uh, I would note that I'm more is chud than axe chud, which is nice. Because if it put me like right there, right in the middle, right at the top of acting chud, I would be completely insulted. So I'm going with I kind of like this answer, but um, yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that. That's how I feel about this right now. So let's just go ahead and post this. I usually don't do these things, but you know what? I thought this was funny, so let's just do this. I used their test as content, and so the least I can do is post it on X where no one reads my posts. Occasionally they read, occasionally I see responses to replies, but no one ever reads my posts. So I'll just leave it there. And hang on, I'm not going to browse X right now. That's silly. Sorry, 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 sorry. Um, what are we heading to next? You know what? I think I might come back later today. I have no idea, but I think if I'm going to leave the chair for more than like 5 minutes, I should just sign off and then sign back on later. So that's probably what I'm going to end up doing. So. Besides yeah, 2 cough lozenges in 2 hours, man. My voice is just not 100%. Anyway, bring that in so you can see it. And peace, baby. Peace, Grease, and Bobby Sherman.